To India now, where monsoon rains have hit the country's south 2 days sooner than expected, providing some relief from the country's unprecedented heat wave. But residents of sweltering Delhi and other areas, they continue to suffer under conditions posing an increasing threat to human health. Temperatures hovered as high as 47 degrees Celsius in Delhi today. Heat waves are common in India, but these unrelenting high temperatures caused by climate change are becoming more common, and experts say they are getting worse.
The sun sets over Delhi, marking an end to another scorching day. Dusk brings much-needed relief, a chance for residents to cool down.
It was extremely hot between 11 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. It was unbearable and troubling for everyone. But what can I say? We have to work in the fields and look after the cattle. That's how nature is. Children are sick because of the heat. They are vomiting and have diarrhea and fever. This is what happens in these temperatures.
The heat is not only a risk to children. Many people are suffering in the high temperatures. Experts warn of a public health crisis as the heatwave drags on.
Heat waves are particularly problematic if they last for a longer period of time, in addition to the intensity. So usually the first day of extreme heat is a problem for human health, but especially the second and later days of extreme heat are additionally difficult because then the human body doesn't have time to recuperate as an extreme heat period extends.
And the extreme heat looks set to continue. Delhi authorities say water shortages are likely. They're advising the city's residents to stay home during the day as much as possible.
All right, for more now, I'm joined by Aditi Mukherjee. She is a director of the Climate Impact Platform at CGIAR. Aditi, it's good to have you with us. Let's talk about water. How severe are water shortages in India now?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on this. The water crisis, particularly right now in Delhi, looks to be quite severe because of the low flows of the Yamuna, but it's a bit more than that, even because when it comes to water and high extreme heat like the one that we are experiencing right now, water demand increases in every possible way. You need more water for the power generation, and on top of that, you have power outages. So the ability to draw water from either the river or from groundwater decreases. So all of these actually compounds the water crisis. That is what we are seeing right now. And there was something I really noticed in your 2-minute segment earlier, is that so many people are saying that this is what the nature is, what can we do? But I feel that there needs to be much more recognition that this is not what the nature is. This is what we have done. This is climate change in action. These were projected 30 years ago. We are simply living what was projected in the climate models like from 30 years ago. And we knew that if we keep pumping CO2 into the atmosphere, this is what will result in. So I feel that we need much more awareness about that extreme heat is not natural. Extreme heat is caused by human-induced climate change. And water crisis is a part of that because every aspect of the water cycle is affected when we have climate change.
And let me ask you about the situation with Delhi. Delhi has been particularly hard hit during this heat wave. The government has blamed the problem on low levels in the Yamuna River, which is the primary source of water for Delhi. But is this the only cause of water shortages? Or does this get back to what you were saying? You've got the government trying to blame it on what? Low levels of a river instead of climate change?
So I think climate change is the driver. I think we all know that. So it's very clear. And what exactly is happening is with the low levels of water in the Yamuna, that's exacerbating the problem. We also have an issue of lack of management of groundwater. So overall, in an urban area where recharge is very low, our groundwater levels are also low. On top of it, we have power crisis because of the heat, because the power generation, power demand has gone up. So there is also that issue of not having enough electricity when you need to pump water. So all of those kind of add up. But the heart of the issue literally is the amount of CO2 that everybody is pumping into the atmosphere, and certainly the role of the high-income countries in causing climate change. So this is really an impact of climate change that we are seeing in action. And as I said, water crisis is an integral part of it.
And what about the monsoons? We know monsoon season usually brings some relief to India. Can we count on that moving forward?
Yes, certainly. So monsoon has already hit the southern coast in Kerala. And by the time it reaches Delhi, it takes another month or so, because that's how monsoon is expected in Delhi only in July. So you can expect more heat waves to be there in the northern part of the country. Monsoons will bring relief for sure, but is also want to note that even the monsoon patterns are also getting affected by climate change. So it's not as if monsoon alone would be the relief. The long-term relief is literally to reduce emissions and to stabilize the climate. That still would remain the long-term solution.
Aditi Mukherjee, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. We appreciate your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Raghu Murtugudda is an Earth Systems scientist at the Indian Institute of Technology in Mumbai. Welcome to DW. How is this current heat wave different from what India would normally see at this time of year?
Well, this year is riding on 2023, which has been a record warm year. We had, in fact, discussed this on this very channel before. The 2003 warming was more than expected because we combined global warming with El Nino, and unfortunately, it's much higher than what El Nino brings. El Nino is a mini global warming. As we know, the heat that is stored in the ocean is belched out. Maybe the 2022 underwater volcano Hangatonga added water vapor and made it much worse. And we are still continuing that heat. So then our summer has arrived. But the other thing is the long-term trend of warming over the Middle East has shifted the winds over the Arabian Sea. So Delhi, instead of getting drier winds, is actually getting very humid winds from the warm Arabian Sea, which is what fired up a few showers last night. But this humidity combined with the high temperatures, the heat index is unbearably high, which is what is different this year.
OK, so we have El Nino, this underwater volcano, as well as shifting wind currents. Those all sound like normal, natural phenomena. So how much of this should we be looking at and blaming climate change for?
Well, everything is now happening in a global warming world. So it's a warm world. So everything has a component of global warming. So just El Nino and shifting winds would not have done it. The winds themselves have shifted because of global warming over the Middle East. So everything is happening within global warming. What is coming up is, of course, the La Nina. So next year will likely look not as bad, but the duration, intensity, frequency, and the extent of the heat waves are increasing. So this risk continues to, climate change basically loads the dice. Everything that should happen once in 10 years is going to happen now, maybe once in 5 years or once in 3 years. So that's what we are looking at. It's not just climate change every year, but every few years it's going to spike the natural things like the heat wave season.
Right. And so given these dire warnings from scientists like yourself, what is India's government doing? What can it do to protect its people from these extremes?
Well, the first thing is India has invested well over $500 million in improving the early warning systems. So 1 to 3 days, 3 to 10 days, these weather forecasts have become much more accurate. And the National Disaster Management Agency works closely with the India Meteorology Department, and it puts resources in place, and it has hydration centers, shelters, public transport, early warnings work well. So it is doing very well. This year, the number of deaths due to heat waves are slightly higher because we got much warmer than we expected and people were not prepared. But in general, the mortality due to these climate hazards have come down. So India is, compared to at least the neighbors and the other developing countries, has done phenomenally well in managing the disaster and developing its early warning systems.
Okay, so some good news in there at least. Thank you so much for guiding us through that so clearly. Earth Systems scientist Raghu Murtuguda. Thank you.
Thank you.